Global backlash decimates U.S. wheat exports as buyers. Abandons 120,000 tons of crops.
U.S. wheat exports continue to struggle despite crop problems overseas.
We're learning more about how President Trump's tariffs could impact the farming industry. Tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China could cause issues for farmers and consumers.
All global buyers just abandoned U.S. wheat and are now rushing to Canada for a million reasons. The Philippines, France, and Mexico dumped American grain, citing delays, chemical risks, and political chaos. And Canada? It didn't wait. Within a day, it moved in with strategy and skyrocketed to global dominance. So here's what just happened, and you're not going to believe how fast it fell apart. Back in early 2025, Trump decided to play hardball again. He rolled out a fresh set of tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China like it was a 2018 reboot. And surprise, surprise, the world wasn't having it this time. The moment that nonsense hit the table, U.S. wheat exports were the first to get thrown off the cliff. That's not exaggeration. April 2nd was the date the collapse officially began. And when I say collapse, I mean billions of dollars in global wheat contracts packed their bags and moved north. Yes, north, straight into Canada's open arms, across Montana, Washington, Texas. Grain bins are literally overflowing. You'd think a bumper harvest is a blessing, but not when there's no one to buy it. These farmers are sitting on mountains of unsold wheat, frustrated not at the buyers, but at the decisions that box them into this impossible corner. Why? Because nobody wants it, not anymore. And let me tell you, this wasn't some loud international walkout, no dramatic boycotts, no global headlines. Just a quiet, brutal betrayal. Country after country slipping out the back door, ghosting America's wheat like a bad Tinder date. American wheat didn't get dumped because it was expensive. It got dumped because it became a risk. A liability? No one wants to gamble on U.S. wheat when the rules change every month and the paperwork is a dumpster fire. Let's take the Philippines. These folks used to be loyal. They bought nearly 3 million tons of U.S. wheat every year. That's loyalty. But what did the U.S. do with it? Fumbled it. In 2025, the Philippines quietly canceled a 12,000-ton deal. No angry press release, no TV debate, just a soft no thanks. And then boom, they signed a deal 10 times bigger with Canada and Australia. 10 times bigger. And what are American farmers doing now? They're not selling wheat. They're burning it. In Oklahoma, actual harvests are being torched because there's no point holding on to something nobody wants. In North Dakota, trains meant to carry wheat are just parked, going nowhere. It's not just a supply problem, it's a full-blown trust collapse. Watching the prairie harvests of Canada fill the world's plates, while U.S. farmers, through no fault of their own, are left behind by policies that failed to protect them. And let's talk about this quiet exodus. France, of all countries, the land of croissants and baguettes, gave Kansas wheat the boot. Not because they hate Americans, but because U.S. shipments couldn't even pass basic EU chemical standards. And France didn't even have a good harvest that year. They were short, but still refused to take American wheat. That says it all. Then there's South Korea. You know how big their market is? In under 1 year, America's share of the Korean wheat market plummeted from 35% to 17%. You can't even spin that, and that's a wipeout. Why? Glyphosate residue. U.S. wheat couldn't pass new safety thresholds. Korean importers didn't start a fight. They just hit delete and moved on to someone more reliable. Mexico. Let's talk about betrayal. America's own neighbor, closest partner, longtime buyer of over 3 million tons a year, nearly 40% gone, just like that. And where did they turn? Canada and Argentina. And who could blame them? Between the tariff tantrums and bureaucratic breakdowns, Mexico finally had enough. Italy? Same story. Not a single TV debate, not even a political tweet. They just dropped US wheat and switched to Canada because their shipments actually arrived when they were supposed to. No weird carbon scores, no missing forms, no last-minute surprises at customs. Just bread on shelves, delivered on time. Unlike the mess across the Atlantic, Egypt, Indonesia, Brazil, Germany, Nigeria. It's like a world tour of no thanks to US wheat. The complaints were always the same: delays, contamination, unpredictable trade rules. America managed to turn a global brand of quality into the international face of red tape, chemical drama, and unpredictable tantrums. And while all that was happening, guess who was winning without saying a word? Canada. By mid-2025, they overtook Australia and locked in the number 3 spot globally for wheat exports. Their production, a smooth 35 million tons. That's a 6.4% jump from the year before. But it gets better. Out of that, they exported 26.5 million tons, and the buyers were lining up. Asia, Europe, everybody wanted in. And it wasn't just because of the wheat. It had a clean reputation. The compliance, the traceability, basically everything the US couldn't promise anymore. Canadian wheat exports to the EU, up 40% in 1 year. That's not a typo. And thanks to CETA, Canada's grain goes tariff-free, while US wheat gets stuck in customs limbo, flagged for incomplete paperwork or pesticide leftovers. Canadian wheat, by the way, is GMO-free. It's environmentally compliant. It actually meets the insane EU and Japanese food standards. Meanwhile, the US keeps shipping wheat that either fails inspections or arrives late, or both. And this is what really stings. Canadian sellers can track every grain of wheat back to the field it came from. The Canadian Grain Commission and private tech firms made sure of that. Buyers love it. Meanwhile, US exporters are struggling to match the logistical precision and traceability of today's global buyers' demand. If you're a global buyer, it's obvious who you're choosing. One country hands you wheat with paperwork, sustainability checks, GPS tracking, and punctuality. The other gives you delays, tariff threats, and glyphosate drama. So while the US was out there fumbling trade deals and letting wheat rot in silos, Canada was quietly building a wheat empire powered by satellites, AI, and common sense. In 2025, they didn't just farm, they upgraded. Out came AI-driven apps that check grain quality in real time. Farmers could literally pull out their phones and scan for quality. Satellite monitoring, standard procedure now. Precision farming, absolutely. They're growing wheat like it's a NASA mission, and it's paying off. And if you're wondering just how far ahead Canada's gotten, try this. Back in the 90s, their spring wheat pulled just 30 bushels per acre. Now, it's pushing 90 to 100. That's not growth, that's domination. Even Warburton's Bakery in the UK pointed it out. It's like Canada multiplied its output while the US multiplied excuses. And the kicker? This wasn't luck. This was planning, investment, technology. But let's not stop the fields, because while American trains are rusting beside overflowing silos, Canada was busy building a billion-dollar beast, the port of Prince Rupert. This isn't just a port, it's a grain-launching superweapon. Opened in 2025, this new terminal doubled Canada's export capacity. And get this, it's closer to Japan and China than any US port. So while American shipments take the long, overpriced way around, Canada just zips through the Pacific like it owns the place. Okay, so the wheat's ready to move, but who's actually moving it? Enter Canadian National and Canadian Pacific. These railways are the arteries of Canada's wheat machine. CN alone hauls about half of the country's grain, connecting farms to ports like a well-oiled, ice-cold logistics assassin. Meanwhile, in the US, rail cars are idle, trains have nowhere to go. Why? Because no one wants what they're carrying. For many American farmers, what's rising faster than exports is the pressure from mounting debt. And here's where Canada truly embarrasses the US: sustainability. While American wheat keeps getting flagged for chemical residue and shady farming practices, Canada leans into clean ag like it's part of their national identity. No-till cropping, crop rotation, strict pesticide bans, all standard. It's not just environmentally friendly, it's exactly what global buyers want. The EU and Japan aren't playing around. They want sustainability, traceability, and chemical safety. And Canada checks every box. The US, on the other hand, still scrambling to understand why once loyal buyers quietly walked away. Now let's talk about the actual fall. The hard numbers that tell you this isn't a bad quarter. It's a full-blown crash. By June 1st, 2025, US wheat stocks had ballooned to 23.15 million metric tons. You know what that means? Nobody's buying. Exports aren't moving. The product is sitting unsold while farmers hope for policies that actually support long-term trade stability. And if that wasn't enough pain, wheat acreage in the US dropped to 9.4 million acres. That's the lowest since 1970. Let that sink in. Many American farmers have stopped planting wheat, not by choice, but because current policies make it financially impossible to keep going. Most of them are switching to corn and soybeans, crops that actually sell. Because wheat, that's become the unfortunate casualty of a system that stopped working for American farmers. And if you want to see what that collapse looks like on the ground, just look at South Dakota and Iowa. Grain elevators are full, but bank accounts are empty. Farmers are defaulting on operating loans, trapped in a system they didn't break. This isn't seasonal hardship. It's structural collapse born from policies outside their control. And who do we thank for that? A little thing called the trade war. According to USDA, Reuters, and S&P Global, the $91 billion U.S. agricultural export sector is unraveling. And let's not forget, during Trump's last tariff war from 2018 to 2019, farmers already lost $27 billion. That was the warm-up. Today, U.S. wheat is seen as a gamble, high risk, politically toxic, chemically questionable, and logistically unreliable. Buyers don't trust it anymore, and trust, once broken, doesn't just come back with a tweet and handshake. The world moved on, Canada moved in, U.S. farmers are left with empty contracts, unpaid loans, and broken promises, paying the price for trade wars they never asked for. By late 2025, Canada was shipping wheat to practically everyone. China alone took 2.9 million tons. Indonesia grabbed 9% of Canada's wheat exports. Japan claimed 8%. And how much went to the US? Just 0.6%. That's what happens when you torch trade bridges and expect buyers to stay loyal. Meanwhile, across the border, Canada didn't just survive, they scaled up. Wheat acreage climbed another 2.6% to 6%. Over 7 million acres are now dedicated to Western red spring wheat. While America debates policy in Congress, Canada just plants, harvests, and ships. That's the difference. Even China, which had beef with Canada over canola, circled back. In May 2025, they bought 200,000 tons of Canadian wheat, while U.S. wheat was completely ignored. That's not a small shift. That's a geopolitical slap in the face. All of this didn't happen by accident. Canada built this wheat empire with discipline, clean branding, regulatory stability, and a long game strategy. Their wheat used to be the backup option. Now it's the main course. While American farmers cling to hollow promises from lawmakers and get ghosted by buyers, Canada's wheat is feeding the world and getting paid for it. Because when the dust settled, it wasn't tariffs or tweets that won the trade war. It was planning, trust, and delivery. And the US, they showed up with chaos and got exactly what chaos deserves. But it doesn't have to stay this way. If US policymakers want to stop the bleeding, they'll need to rebuild buyer trust with smart trade reforms, tighter compliance, and long-term stability. The world's already moved on, but there's still time to catch up if they act fast. And if watching the US get roasted this hard was satisfying, hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started.